Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Got Your Back. A little more upbeat theme music for you there, folks. I thought maybe you could use it after last night's game. Hey, a little more. Get you going a little bit. Get you tapping your foot. Feel like Oiler Nation could use that today after a loss last night in Minnesota that I know some were saying is a scheduled loss. Not sure I buy that, though. You're up in a game, have a chance to win it, and you let it get away from you. Oilers' winning streak comes to an end, and they're back home against the Montreal Canadiens tomorrow. Welcome to Got Your Back YEG, brought to you by our good friends at Mr. Dirk. Of course, Mr. Dirk is located just off White Avenue and 102nd Street. Your one-stop shop for all your clothing needs. If you're a businessman, needing to look sharp at your next meeting, or if you want to sharpen up your look around the office, they got a wide selection of amazing suits and shirts, ties, shoes. They can help you make a statement that you are on top of your game. And if casual is what you need, plenty of that as well. Jeans, pants, shirts, sweaters, belts, and shoes. Mr. Dirk is a great place for quality clothing of all types, and I am due, so I got to make my way down there. All right, we do not have video on Jason Strudwick this morning. He's hiding out in his house somewhere. Struddy, what's with this telephone stuff, buddy?
Yeah. Well, I have some family in town this weekend, and so where I normally do the podcast, they're sleeping in there, and then all the other rooms are full of kids that are sleeping. And then I try to talk loud and with some authority. So I'm actually sitting in my garage in my truck. So we have this house that I'm out of, and I'm in the garage where I won't be disturbed and I won't wake anybody up.
I love your commitment to the sound quality of the podcast, Reddy. You go hide in the garage. So are you sitting in a truck, or what are you doing?
Yep, sitting in my truck, and because you know what happened is that when my relatives come up, my dog will bark like she'll forgot that they were there, and then the kids are coming down, and where's my backpack, all this stuff. Like it's just I needed somewhere quiet. I said, no one come out here until I come in. I will tell you when I'm done.
Yeah,
so.
I have so in my office here, I've got right outside my office door is the front door to of the house.
Sure.
And so I've got these LED lights that I have strung all the way around the outside of the door. So when I'm ready to start doing a podcast, I fire these lights out. They are super bright. Like it lights up the whole inside of the house. But I've got the front door right there and a dog that often barks when the door goes. So I don't know. Little ambient sound on the pod isn't the end of the world, but the sound of dishes being done and kids playing and such is not ideal.
No, and I just don't want to be disturbed when I'm mid-thought. I'm razor thin, the margin of error here.
Yes, yeah. Your attention span is you can go from being brilliant to completely confused real quick.
Seconds.
Yeah, squirrel, right? Squirrel.
Exactly.
Okay, can't imagine Oiler fan is feeling great this morning, so let's get to what happened in that game. And that, of course, is the breakdown brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. They supply some of the nicest maintenance-free fencing and decking products out there. If you've always had a wood fence in your backyard and it's getting a little sketchy, maybe time for a change. Give some serious thought to going maintenance-free with DLR Vinyl. There's no more sanding, no more staining, no more worrying about upkeep. It looks amazing the day it goes in, and it stays that way for decades. I've used the product. I have the product. It is worth every penny. Maintenance-free vinyl decking and fencing from DLR Vinyl Products. It's my family's company. They got locations in Calgary and in Edmonton, so give them a shout. Okay, 5-3 loss. Oilers with leads in this game, Struds, and I think on the second night of back-to-backs, where expectations of energy levels are probably pretty low, bottom line, they gave themselves a chance to not only be in this game, but win this game. But again, it's a theme we've had with this team. They kind of got in their own way again, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And, the scheduled loss is kind of, I think it's a bit of an excuse, but I do believe there's some truth to it. You're flying in rather late. But the big thing for me is the lack of depth in this forward group for the Oilers. The big guys got goals to get the team ahead. And then I thought that the rest of the group had a tough time kind of pushing, to get another one. I know Kostin got a late one, but I don't want to celebrate that too much. It's a goal, but I really think that, and it's not even a goal, it's just to be able to wear the other team down and push back And they didn't have it. I just didn't think there was that in that group. When you're tired, the big guys can't just keep carrying you through the whole game.
Yeah, no question. We need to get to Campbell right away here. Lots of other events and lots of other things that happen within that game. But let's discuss Jack Campbell. You made a great point yesterday on Gregor's show. And your point was that Jack Campbell had a chance to really come up huge for his team in that game last night. Because if you think about it, everybody was gassed. Everybody had played the night before except for Costin. Everybody was going to be dragging it around a little bit there in Minnesota except for Campbell. He was going to be rested and ready to go. So expecting maybe he would need to make a few big saves to keep his team in it while they got their legs underneath them, right? He had the opportunity to come in and really solidify a group that maybe you weren't sure what you were going to get from. And once again, Struddy, it's just not the performance that he had in him. And it started early. There were some goals last night were not great. Overall, what are your thoughts on Campbell and what you saw?
They needed him to be a hero, right? And it's unfair at times, but that's reality. Like, okay, well, we're down a few guys. We're second of a back-to-back situation, and those have done all right in those situations. But can this guy pull one out of the hat? And I thought it was a really good chance for him to kind of make his mark for the team and more importantly, feel good about himself because of the way he supplies a quality start for the Oilers. Well, I didn't think the first two goals, I didn't like them. The guy walks out of the corner and I don't know if it went under his arm or wherever it went, but I think that's a makeable save. And then you got, I think the next one, I'm in my grad, so I don't have it in order, but yeah. I believe it was the backhand short side by, is it not Cujo, but whatever his name is. And, there's an opportunity there to make saves on both those, right? And just say, I've got you guys. I've got you tonight. Just give me what you can. I've got you. If you can get the 3 goals, I'll own that in 2. And it just wasn't there, and it was a disappointing. I think I'm disappointed for him because there was a chance for him to kind of make his mark and get back up on what he thinks is where he is as a starting goaltender.
Yeah. So, and just to clarify here, it was Eck on the first one. So the puck bounces off the end wall. Campbell pushes over, ends up getting banked off him and in. I think the goal you're talking about is a 3-2 goal by Gaudreau, the backhand up high.
Right.
Like somehow Campbell made himself look like a small goaltender on that one. He's over there, he's down, he's kind of hugging the post and he's kind of hunched over, right? Like Campbell's not a small guy, but he definitely, compared to most other goalies out there right now, he has equipment that hugs his body in a different way. You look at his equipment, even just versus Skinner's. The pads, I think, are a little bit tighter, and the shoulders they're not that big and bulky. And he looked small to me on that goal, no question about it. Then there was the one a little bit later on in the game that came in from the point. I always give a goaltender a break when there's a deflection because it throws everything off. But it was deflected and still went right through him. Even if there's a deflection, you don't like seeing a puck go right through a goalie.
Yeah, and I had explained to me by a goalie coach one time why goalies look small, and I thought it was great. And we saw it from Mikko last year at times. When they're unsure about themselves, they squeeze everything in. So, let's just start with our arms. Your elbows kind of squeeze into your side because you don't want anything, getting past you. So everything kind of shrinks. So when you're feeling good about yourself, kind of everything is out further, right? Because you take up more space and you're more relaxed. And Campbell looks to me like he's just kind of shrinking in on himself when shots are coming in, specific to the Gaudreau goal, backhand short side. There's some players that can make good shots. That's a decent player, and that's not an amazing shot. I think there was quite a bit of room over his shoulder there. And again, I thought he made himself look small in that situation. So that to me is a sign of a goalie's uncomfortable with where his game's at. And I get it. I mean, he's on off the start he wants. But, I can't throw the entire loss at his feet, but I think it was a missed opportunity by him to really assert himself on this Oilers team, and most importantly, make himself feel good.
Jack Campbell didn't speak with the media last night after the game. His last 5 games, save percentages, .833, .870, .903, .781, and then .946 was the nice bounce back performance against the Tampa Bay Lightning, but really has struggled in this after this reset. Struds, where are they at with this goaltender? Because you give him a break, you let him reset, you let him get his head square, and then he comes out in his game. I would say marginally better than it was before, but after last night's performance feels like a setback to where they were before with Jack Campbell. They don't have any choice with this guy for me. I mean, the contract is what the contract is. Thank goodness for them that Stuart Skinner is playing well. But if people are wondering, well, what do they do? Right? You saw what LA did the other day with Cal Peterson. They throw him on waivers. Like that's going to be some magic fix in some way for Campbell. There is nothing for the team to do here, Struddy, in my opinion. They have to hope Skinner keeps playing well. Give Skinner a few more starts right now because he's earned the starting job. They have no choice but to let Campbell keep playing his way through this, in my mind.
Yeah, it's too bad. You look at the way that all played out. It seemed like a magical fit. Every ex-Leaf that's come, or every Leaf that comes to Edmonton seems to work out. And for Campbell so far, it hasn't been that fairy tale story. But you're right. They have to continue to play him out there and support him. And there's a better goalie than he's shown, for sure. This is not who Jack Campbell is. And I do think he can find his way through it. Unfortunately, there might be a few more warts before he gets there. And I'm not sure what turns it. Is it a magical performance, like a shutout performance where he holds it down? Maybe. Because I think it's mental as much as anything technical he's doing. Jack is very hard on himself. And that's a tough space for a goalie to be when your team is down, shorthanded health-wise, not off to the start that people expected. And then you have these $25 million expectations on yourself, and you don't feel like you're delivering. So you can imagine that's a perfect storm for a goalie who, this is the first time he signed a massive deal. And I really think all those things are challenging Jack. So maybe it's a conversation with the sports psych, and I'm sure he has one already, but I think it's some more conversations with him and how to reset mid-game, maybe how to reset mid-season. They just got to keep working at it, but they can't just throw him out. It's not, Cal Peterson's been sent down to minors to work on his game specifically. That's what his job is there. But the Oilers don't have that luxury here with Campbell, and they got to keep working with him. Because I do believe he'll come around, but right now it's not roses for Campbell and the Oilers.
Okay, let's get to the Weiss Johnson soundbox here. And remember, it's a great time of year to look into a furnace for the garage. Winter is here in force, folks. And if you want to let the family get into a nice toasty warm car, give them a shout, 780-463-3096. They've got a showroom at 5803 Roper Road that's actually quite awesome. I've been there a couple of times, and I just had a furnace put into the garage last week. Oh, am I glad I did. The timing on that was absolutely perfect. So give the crew over at Weiss Johnson a call, 780-463-3096. Hey, okay, to the Weiss Johnson soundbox. Now, this is going to be an effort to make Oiler fan feel maybe a little bit better about the goaltending situation going on right now with Jack Campbell. Because did you see what happened last night in Calgary? I don't know if you saw it, Struddy, but Jacob Markstrom, basically opening shift of the game, or right away, he come flying out of the net trying to make this crazy Dominic Hasek-like save. And ended up in the back of the net by Slavkovsky. And then he let another one in later in the game. I didn't really even think was much his fault. He had to come all the way across. Flames end up dropping a game. And Markstrom came out and talked post-game. Man, you think Jack Campbell was hard on himself a couple of weeks ago. To the Weiss Johnson soundbox, here's Jacob Markstrom.
Take us through what happened on that opening goal.
I think everybody saw what happened. And, it's not a good play.
What was it with Josh Anderson on that play?
Nothing really. I just suck at hockey right now.
What can you do to get better?
Work harder, stop more pucks.
Work harder, stop more pucks. I mean, same thing for Jack Campbell here, right? Just that's all you can do. You put your head down, you work harder, and you try and stop more pucks. But man, the Alberta goaltending situation, these guys they're getting beat up by fans, and they're beating themselves up too, Struddy.
The work harder, stop pucks. When I played, I've been my answer as well. I got to do more. And I don't know that's always the answer. I think that there's got to be quality to your practice, right? And quality to your preparation. I'm not sure that just massive quantity is the answer. I know fans go on, they got to work. They got to do everything. They should be never sleeping, just stopping pucks. I get it, but that's not how a professional athlete kind of gets back on track. It's, building up a game brick by brick by brick. And you know, Jack Campbell's had a lot of time to kind of do it, and I'm actually surprised he hasn't been able to work his way out of it. That's why I do feel, I think it's more inside his head, more than his, maybe the actual physical part they're working on. And you know, hopefully it comes out and he can talk about it. You know, let's say he works out of this in the next 60 days, and then he can go back and say, well, this is what was going on, or this is what's happening, or whatever. But you know, to hear Markstrom talk about that, he's a fiery guy. You know, that guy is a competitor, and he shows it more than Campbell does. So, like, the work harder, I like. He tried to work hard. He skated away out of his match to try to do it, but that's not the play. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, so how much do you want me to skate faster out there? Like, it's overthinking it, right? And I think that's where the game's not coming to you. You're trying to drive the game, and it's not ideal as a player.
Yeah, and I didn't view Campbell last night as trying to do too much necessarily. He played a game to me where, for the most part, I think he was trying to stay within himself. He had some puck touches that I didn't really like. But I thought he tried to stay within himself last night, unlike Markstrom, who came racing out there. But still, the saves, like, and then you look at the other end, right? Fleury. I mean, he just made a couple of saves that kept his team in a moment rather than, referee signals goal, team goes to the bench, and the dynamic of the game has changed. Fleury's he made a couple there at key moments. And Campbell just... It's not that Campbell didn't make any good saves last night. He did. He made some good ones. But he let ones in that in that moment, it just changes the dynamic of the game. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the goaltending situation moving forward. Skinner most definitely gets a start against the Montreal Canadiens. And quite frankly, Jay Woodcroft has to start making decisions right now strictly about what is best for his team night in, night out. The days of got to get Campbell in there so we can work through it. He's going to naturally get games because you can't play Skinner every night. But right now, for me, Struddy, the worm is turned. Stuart Skinner's a starting goalie on this team for the time being, plays at least 2 out of every 3 moving forward. And Campbell is going to have to get his game back on track, getting backup starts. I think Jay Woodcroft has to do that now. It's no longer about, okay, maybe Skinner's ready to go, but boy, Jack really needs to get off the schneid, so you're going to Jack instead. And he's done that a few times this year, trying to get Campbell going. That's over. He's going to have to deal with the starts he can get as a backup right now.
That was me. That's what I said. I said, you got to keep putting Campbell back in there. He'll find his game. But now I agree with you. What it's become now is that Campbell's going to have to earn his spot back in the net, right? So Skinner is look calm, he's look steady, and that's, you know, I think what we can't miss here is this is huge for the Edmonton Oilers. This is a drafted homegrown player or a goalie that is now becoming essentially the starter. You know, when was the last time the Oilers had that? And that's a huge thing. So as much as it's disappointing about Campbell, but where his game's at, and I do believe he'll find his game, this is huge for the Oilers, short term, long term, medium term, like everything. Skinner's done everything right, and now he continues to, build a resume about who he is and where he fits in the NHL and what his future is, all that stuff. Now he can't look far ahead. That's not what he needs to look at just like tomorrow's start, but he is doing that. But for Campbell is now in the backup role in my mind. Campbell needs to earn the starts he gets. And no more, okay, we got to get him going. Let's get him in there. And this game last night, this flipped it for me. I really did flip it for me. So, plays Saturday against Montreal. Skinner starts. And I'm guessing Skinner probably gets the next start. That is on Monday. I think it's Monday. And then after that, see how things are going. How's Campbell looking in practice? The conversation, the goalie coach, and the coach, that's where it's at. And unfortunately, that's the business. That's how quick things can turn 25 games into a season.
Yeah, I think Campbell's next start's Wednesday against the Coyotes, or it should be. This team needs to solidify itself. They need to stabilize themselves, and Skinner will have the rest he needs to play at least the next 2 games in a row, and I think that he should. Okay, back to the Weiss Johnson soundbox. Here's Connor McDavid right now on this group. Listen, they won 3 in a row, which was good, but understanding they got to keep stringing them together.
You got to string them together. Obviously we got to get a little bit more desperate. It's a big month for us here in December, and set ourselves up for a good second half.
Jay Woodcroft wasn't having any excuses last night about fatigue.
I think those are excuses, Gene. For me, we put ourselves in position to play a good game, and it was tight. Found ourselves down, but the team pushed as hard as it could all the way to the very last few seconds, and unfortunately we made too many errors and they ended up in the back of our net.
Let's go through some of those errors, Struddy, because there were some. Like Matthias Janmark, multiple penalties and costly penalties. I thought for sure, he would take a benching or a bump or, if there was a chance to maybe bump Holloway up after a couple of those penalties from Janmark. But a couple costly penalties there. What else bothered you mistake-wise?
Well, I'm glad you brought the penalties up because I want to address that. Is that, when you're so tight up against it as far as skill in your lineup. Last game we saw Nugent Hopkins, take, I think he had 8 minutes, 3 penalties, one double minor, and one was, if I remember correctly, it was off a center faceoff, and he kind of just gives the old chicken hook to the other center. Like, you can't do that. You cannot have that happen. And then you talk about Janmark last night, like it's nitpicky, but you have to play clean hockey because the margin of error is so thin for this group right now. They don't have the luxury of having Kane or a Fogle or a Yamamoto or whatever with depth on your third or fourth line that can kind of jump up and do something special or hold it down, and they can't do that. But one thing I saw last night, and it's not just specific to any single player, but their puck management at their own blue line, I thought was off. And a couple times it resulted, one time for sure it resulted in a penalty against, but when you get the puck close or at your blue line, it has to go forward.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to dump it out, doesn't mean you have to, shoot it, ice it down, but the puck has to move forward because when you don't get it out, that energizes the other team. Now they got it, they're going down. And I'm thinking of one shift, particularly for Derek Ryan's line, where I can't remember who didn't quite get out the blue line, and it goes back in. Now they're in their end for another 45 seconds, and then someone drew a penalty or took a penalty, and that's the difference. Like that's so we're talking about 3 feet the puck didn't advance, and now we're talking about a setback that's massive.
Yeah, for sure. And on a night where your team is tired, you got to do things, the simple things that you can do right that allow you to keep it moving in the right direction. Otherwise, the legs just get heavier and heavier. Every time you got to stop and start skating hard back in the other direction because there was a mistake, it just drains the legs and drains the legs. And on the second night of a back-to-back, some efficiency with keeping the puck moving north. Simplicity, keep it moving north. Definitely needed that and probably wasn't enough of that in their game. Mini's a big physical team. They wanted to play a big physical line against the Oilers. Leon Draisaitl we saw getting knocked around a little bit. There was a certain amount of pushback. But if you remember after Evander Kane arrived, you remember the big game he had against Minnesota where he had like 4 or 5 guys in the scrum and was standing there grinding. You remember that, grinding on his own, right? To me, definitely that's an element that they really miss from the lineup when he's not there. But how much would you say, Struds, in the big picture, they're missing that guy right now?
Ton, absolute ton. And I thought, for the first time, I really saw it last night. And I'm not going to, Reeves does what he does, and he's all over the ice and doing his thing. But I thought it was Jordan Greenway. I thought that he and Eck had their way with the McDavid line, and not that they were bullying them and beating them up, but you could see it. And the moment you can really kind of put a capital on it is when Draisaitl punched, I think it was Eck in the face, and that should have been a penalty. Like I don't care how hardcore a family you are from the Oilers, that should have been a penalty. But they were big and physical on them. If Kane's in there, that's not happening, right? Or if it is, he's going to push back. But no one had to push back, right? I like Goldberg standing up to Reeves and, Kulak kind of getting into it with Reeves a little bit after he gets run. Like, I like that. But Evander Kane is unpredictable. You have no idea what he's going to do, and everyone on the ice, on both teams know it, because he could explode at any minute. And, man, did they miss him last night, because that team is big. Everywhere, but they're big in a lot of areas. And they didn't even have Hartman in there, and Hartman's a little bit out there too. So, last night was really showed me not just the skill we've missed with Kane, the teams, but that unpredictability factor that he brings, man, it was on display last night. Now you're going to play against Montreal the next game. Yeah, you miss his skill, but no, I'm not so worried about what they're going to push guys around. But against big teams like that, like Nashville or many, man, he is so missed in that lineup.
All right, that was The Breakdown, brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. Lots more to come still here on the podcast. We're going to get to takeaways. A couple things we're going to address in our takeaways segment. And we're talking about face-offs and costly face-offs, penalty kill face-offs, because as we saw, the Oilers last night scored on a couple of times off of face-offs. It's happened plenty of times already this year. So we'll get into the minutia of what are you supposed to be doing when you're shorthanded in a face-off? Already at a disadvantage. Struddy and I will break that down a little bit, and then a big picture thought on where the Oilers are. You're listening to Got Your Back, YEG, Rishaug, and Strudwick. Checking in with Sterling Dirk inside the beautiful Mr. Dirk shop. People ask me all the time, who is the Mr. Dirk, Sterling? I know it's not you. Who's the original?
So my grandfather was a tailor, and he came over to Canada in 1940s, opened his freestanding shop in 1965. So Mr. Dirk's an ode to my grandfather. He was a tailor, and we keep that ethos of like quality service and community embedded in our store every day. So if you come in, you walk in, you're gonna get a friendly face, a smile, and we're gonna get you suited up, head to toe, get you some jeans, shoes, whatever you need. We got you covered.
1939 is on the emblem, and it means something. Truly local. MrDirk.com is where you can see all of their merchandise, or visit them in store right off White Avenue and 102nd Street. Hey, Struddy, question for you. Have you ever tried putting in your own fence?
I sure have. Between digging the posts, mixing up cement and digging the holes, it's absolute killer.
It's brutal on the back. Well, listen, what if I told you you could put in a fence without having to dig a hole or mix any concrete?
I'd be much more likely to come over and help you out.
Yeah, well, you're not the first guy I would call, but thank you for that. Listen, my brother's company, DLR Vinyl Products, they've come up with a system where you can actually put high-quality vinyl fence in the ground without having to dig a hole, without having to mix any concrete. They can teach do-it-yourselfers how to do it, and they can also work with contractors who might be looking to start installing vinyl. It's super high-quality product. The great thing about it is that it has fantastic longevity. You put it in, you don't have to worry about staining or sanding or anything like that. I've been lucky enough, Struddy. They've put in multiple fences in my different yards, and they've built me 3 decks. I have totally abused the fact that my family is in the fencing and decking business, but it's great product. Give Rob a call in Calgary or Rick a call here in Edmonton. This is a company my dad started. It's a family business. I'm super proud of it. That's DLR Vinyl Products in Edmonton and Calgary. All right, time now for takeaways, brought to you by Sherwood Buick GMC, just off Baseline Road on the way into Sherwood Park, the #1 GMC dealership in all of Canada for 5 years running. Have you seen the new all redesigned Sierra 1500? Oh, it's fantastic. I'm lucky enough to have one. I've got the Elevation trim. They got all kinds of different trim levels, though, to suit your needs and your budget. The Denali Ultimate is the Shangri-La, the most advanced and luxurious truck in its class. And they've got inventory as well. Sherwood Buick GMC is the place to go. If you're looking for a new or a used vehicle, it's the giant dealership just off Baseline Road on the way into Sherwood Park. Go see Phil and the crew over at Sherwood Buick GMC. Okay, Struddy, face-offs. Big picture wasn't too bad last night for the Edmonton Oilers, won 53% of them, but a couple goals scored against them on face-offs, defensive zone face-offs on the penalty kill. So I want to talk about that type of face-off specifically. You're already shorthanded in that situation, but what is everybody's job on those face-offs? You've got the center obviously has to win it, the wingers, and the 2 D-men. What is the job of everybody on those face-offs, and where are the breakdowns coming, you think, for the Oil?
Well, let's start on the center. So the center's job is to not lose it clean. So I know everyone thinks they're going to go in and try to win every single face-off, like just snap it back, but it doesn't work like that. You have to think, okay, the other team is putting a pretty good sentiment there as well.
Yeah.
So you do not want to miss it clean and let them have full possession, because that is the worst case scenario. Because right off there now, everyone's reacting to the D-man getting it. and moving around. And a lot of teams have, if not set plays, they have certain ways they handle things off of that. And so you cannot let it, at worst, you want to tie it. So let's say I'm going for the tie. When I'm going for the tie, that means the puck might go to my wingers or to the D, and it's a 50-50 puck. So those people have to be ready. You have to be on your toes, and you want to get your stick underneath the other person's stick so you can get that leverage to win that puck. And again, you might not win it, but it doesn't leave you in that area, and it goes to somewhere where they can now get full possession. So that's two chances now where we're not really talking about winning. We're talking about not losing the puck in those moments. Now, if your center does win it, you have to make a play of it. Let's go back to last game. 2 power play goals against, 2 times off of 1 face-off. So there's 2 on both sides, one on each. One on each side. The centerman wins it, and it's not good enough. So, are you talking over top me?
Oh no, sorry. Did you hear something?
I did. I was like, you're like, it's the Oscars. You're done, Struddy. You're done.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know what that was. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties here. We don't have Zuby on the pod today, so I'm the one mucking my way through all this.
No problem. So, but like I said, the game against Chicago, they won a face-off on both sides, and the D-men they didn't get the puck out. So that's a sin as well. And it's too easy when you think about the Max Domi goal. They just rim it around the ice or around the wall. Max Domi, anyone there is going to be fast enough to get over there and get that puck. And so you've got to either rip it up the middle or go off the glass so the guy has to stop with his teeth and put it on the ground. That's easy. Those guys practice that all the time. So there's a lot going on in that moment for that. Like, it's called the first drop of a puck after a penalty. You have to be ready. Everyone has to be on their toes and knowing what our outs are. And if you get the puck and you don't think you can ice it, don't just throw it away. Hold on to it. Fight for it in the corner. Take some time off the clock. Maybe your buddy can he'll be able to knock it out of that zone. But I just don't think the level of desperation for the Oilers off of the initial face-off is there for all 4 players.
Yeah, I think so. In the big picture here, in terms of face-offs, shorthanded, the Oilers, they're not that bad. I mean, they're 47%, which has them at 9th place in the league. Even strength, just taking a quick look here. Where are they? 18th at even strength. And then power play, their face-off percentage is sitting 8th in the league at 60%. But a couple of draws last night that were, I mean, it's not like they were absolutely crystal crisp, clean wins, right? Contested pucks where guys have an opportunity to jump in and help out. We often crap all over the centers for losing these draws, Struddy. And you look at the percentage at the end of your night and you're like, oh, that guy had a tough night. He was like 41%. Well, the difference of 2 draws can get you between 41 and 50. And more often than not, it's really about what the wingers do in the moment and how much help they step in and jump in with. But definitely some detail in the face-off game that can be cleaned up for the Oilers, and in particular shorthanded, hey?
Oh, for sure. And it just, there's got to be a plan. So even as you're standing there, I always coach kids when I tell them, when you're at a face-off, but specifically a penalty kill face-off, I'm thinking, okay, what am I looking for? What am I out? Who am I with? Who am I standing beside? Is he a strong guy? Is he left-handed, right-handed? What's the centerman do? What's their tendency? Where's the play trying to go to for them? Like, all those things have to be going through your head. You don't just skate out there with a dart hanging out of your mouth, just waiting to see what happens. You have to be ready for anything and kind of evaluating. That's why, I honestly think at times penalty killers have to be some of your smartest players, because you're down a player and you have to think about all these different things. And even, is my partner, does he have a strong wrist shot? Can he ice it down? Does my goalie like to handle the puck? If the face-off, let's say the left goalie, is it a left shot or a right shot? If I rim it hard, this can be on the other side, because it's obviously easier to pick the puck up if your stick's on the wall rather than your stick's in the middle. Like, those are things that I'd lined up. I'd look at all those things. I would take it all in. I was like Sherlock Holmes. I would take all these details in before the puck was even dropped. And I'm not saying I'm a genius, but I needed to, because I wasn't as fast as all these other guys. I just figured this all out. So taking in all that information, thinking about what the most likely outcome is for the direct face-off, then after that, where do you go? And don't sense, I feel like they go out there like, okay, well, we're going to try to get this done. But if we don't win the faceoff, that's okay. If you don't get the puck, it's okay because we'll kill it off. But it doesn't work that way. You got to be intent right away. Nothing kicks a team in the nuts more than the very first faceoff after a penalty. It's dropped back to D-man. D-man just hammers out of his zone, and it just right away, like, yes, we got them on their heels, right?
Yeah.
And if you can stop them again into their own entry, now like, yes, we're doing it. And you can change. Someone else goes up there, and the momentum's building.
Yeah.
And it's you have to think like that, and you got to take great pride in it. And it's, man, I used to love killing penalties. I love seeing the frustration on skilled players' faces. It just brought me so much joy. It's like telling someone whatever, like they're having a bad day. And I just loved it. And then I found that bled into the 5-on-5 game.
And then when they scored a power play goal against you, we were like, it was a power play. Yeah, I know. They had one more guy than us.
I never thought that, because I think you should be able to kill off every power play. Like, that's the attitude you have to have. Just every skilled player thinks they can score in every power play. You got to think you can stop everyone. And there is a feeling when you jump over and you're going to get it done, and you go in there and you're talking like, hey, snap it back to me. Like, this is what we're doing. Just like I love that moment, because it kind of felt like you against the world. There's other teams' 5 best players. Yeah. And like, we're going to make you guys have a bad 2 minutes. And, I loved it.
Before we let you go here, big picture thought. Actually, we'll hear from Jay Woodcroft. We go back to the Weiss Johnson soundbox. Just big picture where the team is at.
We're battling through a little bit of adversity, which is, number one, our schedule has been what it has been. All teams go through that. We've had major injuries. 4 of our top 9 forwards are out. We're asking people to move up the lineup. We're learning a lot about people when you go through this. So I think we're
learning a lot about people. Injuries are definitely there, Struddy. Big picture here, they're sitting 26 points, 13 and 11, couple games over 500 in a wild card spot. Certainly very much in the fight and in the hunt. But big picture, where do you think they're at in terms of their play and the play that's required to have success here over the next 60-some games, 50-some games?
It's hard to evaluate because they're missing 4 of their top 9 forwards. Right, I really think that this team is not complete. They weren't playing to their best before these guys went down, and now they're down and they're trying to hang on. Now they've won 3 of their last 4, and I would suspect that a win is coming against Montreal. Washington should be able to get some traction there, and same with Arizona. So, we could be talking about a team that goes 6 out of 7 wins without 4 of their top 9 forwards. Like, there's something there, but. So that's the point race we're talking about. That's what, if we're talking about that. But as far as their game, I don't think it's at it where it needs to be, specifically defensively. And I've been banging this drum. I will bang this drum till till I'm done. You need to be able to defend and be hard to defend your own end. I think part of the problem is that they've had the inconsistent goaltending at times, specifically from Jack Campbell. And I'm fair to point finger, but it's reality. But then also in front, they need to be harder and more assertive in their own zone and making it hard for the team to get to their blue paint. So there's area to improve. A lot of what I'm talking about is a will with the way you defend. It's not skill, it's will. But all that being said, I think where their understanding isn't great. But considering with the injuries, I'm okay with it, as long as they keep beating the teams they should beat as they move towards Christmas.
This is what it sounds like getting played off a podcast, Reddy. That's what it sounds like when the music comes in.
There it is.
Time to stop talking.
So I can go back in the house now?
Yeah, you can get out of the garage, buddy.
Okay.
Go back and see your family. Thank you for this.
Yes.
Have an awesome day, buddy, and we'll check in after the weekend.
Can't wait, man.
All right, Jason Strudwick from the front seat of his truck in his garage, doing a great job breaking down the Oilers and the Minnesota Wild last night. That'll wrap the podcast, folks. Big thanks for your downloads and your subscriptions. We really appreciate it. Big thanks to our sponsors as well. There you can see a Mr. Dirk, Sherwood Buick GMC, DLR Vinyl Products, and Weiss Johnson as well. The Montreal Canadiens rolling into town. Coming off a win against the Calgary Flames. Should be a good game. Montreal's got some real good players, some dangerous players, and they have ways of testing you. So the Oilers with a chance to try and get themselves back into a bit of a run, and we will break it all down when it is done. Have yourselves a fantastic day, folks. We'll talk to you again real soon.